Hi, Don Laskin with another edition of Observations When the Rant is Due. An uncalled for commentary on just about anything that's often none of my business. Today, Noonanized. Even though it happened some 75 years ago, chances are you heard of Amelia Earhart, who with her navigator went missing during their round-the-world flight while looking to refuel at Howland Island, an infinitesimally tiny spit of sand in the middle of the Pacific. There are all kinds of theories about what happened. She crash-landed on a barren, waterless atoll and died of exposure waiting for rescue. Was executed, with or without just cause, as a spy by the Japanese during World War II. Or, sick of the notoriety, she faked her disappearance and lived out a life of peaceful obscurity in Kansas or Nebraska or South Dakota or some other place with corn. Admittedly, this last theory is often held by types like 9/11 truthers, Obama birthers, and people in Walmart who carry on long cell phone conversations without cell phones. Anyway, nobody ever found out what happened, except that running out of fuel, the final transmission heard by the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca on station to help guide her by radio to Howland Island was, "We are on the line 157337. We will repeat this message. We will repeat this message on 6210 kilocycles. Wait." Which translated means, "Please find us, we're lost." So whose fault would lost be? How about the person whose job it was to know where they were? The navigator, Fred Noonan. If you had to blame somebody, it was a pretty easy choice. Amelia Earhart was beautiful, gutsy, a damn good writer, and an accomplished flyer. Noonan, on the other hand, was an accomplished drunk. The conventional wisdom often had it that a hungover Fred Noonan probably couldn't find his way to the men's room, let alone Howland Island. Hopelessly lost, they ran out of fuel, and the Pacific is a very big, very deep ocean. Anyway, the conventional wisdom seemed like just good old-fashioned wisdom, until I came across a recent PBS documentary, which pointed out some things I'd never heard before. As well as a drunk, Noonan also had the distinction of being perhaps the best navigator in the world. And Earhart, as well as being beautiful, gutsy, a damn good writer, and an accomplished flyer, had a decidedly strong will. Earlier in the flight, on reaching the African coast after crossing the Atlantic on their way to Dakar, Noonan passed Earhart a note saying they should fly south. I should explain, Noonan was in the back of the Lockheed Electra, separated from Earhart by extra fuel tanks, so the only way they could communicate over the roar of the engines and cabin noise was writing a message, attaching it to a stick, and passing it between them. Anyway, Noonan said Dakar was south of their position. Earhart decided Dakar was north. She banked left and they flew on until it was plain they were heading in the wrong direction. Finally, she made a 180 and they doubled back to Dakar. According to the PBS documentary, something similar probably happened on the way to Howland Island. Before departing, the navigator knew their latitude, the speed and altitude the aircraft would be flying at, and what time the sun would rise if they were where they were supposed to be. In other words, when the sun came up that day, Noonan knew exactly where they were. And, according to the documentary, had they continued on the course Noonan set perhaps another 15 minutes, they'd have reached the island. But before that happened, Earhart presumably decided to start a search pattern short of the target. The likeliest scenario is they crisscrossed the area till they ran out of fuel and crashed into the sea. Now, even though I do these uncalled for commentaries on just about anything that's often none of my business, this documentary had a lot to do with my business. It resonated with me for reasons that creators could never have imagined. You see, I've been Noonanized. From time to time, after being hired for a project, presumably for my creativity, expertise, and experience, a client has blown off my advice like mobile homes in an Oklahoma twister. And with similar results to Earhart's last flight. The difference being, the client survives, I get fired, but nothing gets killed. Except, of course, the project. This is Don Laskin, and that was Observations.